Finally, the Sacramento Kings and Monte McNair have agreed to a contract extension, and all I can say is it's about time. It's a day of celebration here in Sacramento, and you're listening to a special edition of the Locked On Kings podcast.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage all regular season long. Today, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. It's the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. My name is Matt George. I have the privilege of being your host here. I'm a Sacramento sports reporter and producer for ABC 10. I'm currently here in my office at the ABC 10 studios, where I was expecting a pretty relaxed and chill evening of sports coverage. Maybe a little 49ers stuff here or there, getting ready for the NFC Championship game, maybe some local high school content, things of that nature. No, the Sacramento Kings, Adrian Wojnarowski from ESPN, drops a bombshell, but it's a bombshell that's a very welcome sight. The Kings and general manager Monte McNair have reportedly agreed to a contract extension. No word on the length. He initially signed a 3-year deal. I'm hoping this is a 4-year deal. Monte absolutely 100,000,000% deserves this, and also reportedly the Sacramento Kings are finalizing a new deal with assistant general manager Wes Wilcox to stick around with Monte. Before we dive into the weeds of all this, I was planning today on dropping a Kings and Wizards trade podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's already pre-recorded. It's already done. It was set to drop at 6 p.m. Pacific time tonight. Well, now that this Monte McNair news has dropped, I'm delaying that podcast to 6 a.m. this morning. You might notice the length of this podcast not as long as normal. That's because it's a special edition. I don't have anything else prepared, but as soon as this news dropped, I had to find a way to take some time away from the ABC 10 duties here and make sure we talk about it here on the Locked On Kings podcast. So, I mean, just looking at general manager Monte McNair's tenure from start to finish. He's brought in 2020. Starts a little rough, right? He starts with kind of committing to Luke Walton and then really committing to Luke Walton before firing him only a handful of games into last season. The decision to not re-sign Bogdan Bogdanovic, or to basically let him walk for nothing, not do any kind of sign and trade. So there was some instant criticism that I had towards what Monte McNair did, but he hit an absolute home run in the draft by drafting Tyrese Halliburton. He's hit, I'd say, 2 home runs and 1 solid double in the 3 drafts that he's had as a general manager, the solid double being Davion Mitchell. I think Keegan Murray this past draft was an absolute home run. And because he did such a good job in the Tyrese Halliburton draft, now some would say Tyrese Halliburton fell to him, but I mean, he deserves absolute credit for making that decision, especially it being his first ever draft pick to land on Tyrese Halliburton and to manage to get Tyrese Halliburton. Because Tyrese was so good in that draft, Monte was able to, I'm sure it was a difficult decision, but Monte was able to turn Tyrese Halliburton into Domantas Sabonis, and we now know and see how incredibly effective De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis are together. Look, Monte McNair has really, I mean, it took multiple off seasons, but just look at the last summer that he had, 2022, right? He hires head coach Mike Brown, who is already the best head coach that the Sacramento Kings have had since Rick Adelman, like by far. It's not even close. And that's no disrespect to Dave Yeager, who I really liked. And maybe Mike Malone could have been and would have been had the Kings not made that dreadful mistake of firing him. But regardless, Mike Brown has been an excellent hire for the Sacramento Kings. Mike Brown has done an excellent job forming his staff, and the Kings supported Brown in forming the staff that he's brought together with Jordi Fernandez, Jay Triano, Leandro Barbosa, Luke Lautz, and of course Doug Christie sticking around, and there's more that I'm not listing. But in addition to that, like, you could see that the Kings and Mike Brown, general manager Monte McNair and Mike Brown, have been on the same page for the last however long Mike Brown has been here, with roster moves, players brought into training camp, a lot of players that Mike Brown coached on the Nigerian national team, a player like Matthew Dellavedova, who had a relationship with Mike Brown before. Like, we've seen all of these connections that Monty has made, bringing in players that have connections to Mike Brown or connections to members of the Sacramento Kings coaching staff, showing a cohesiveness that we haven't really seen amongst the Kings front office for a long period of time. But again, going back to that 2022 summer, the 2022 offseason, in addition to hiring Mike Brown, which was a major decision for Monte McNair, he turns Mo Harkless and a protected future first-round pick. There was one other player involved in that, and I can't remember who. Oh, it was Justin Holiday. He turns those three into Kevin Huerter, absolute home run of a deal. He drafts Keegan Murray, absolute home run of a pick. Of course, he and the Kings got lucky with the draft lottery odds, but again, we can't hold that against McNair. And he did his due diligence and had a tough decision to make with guys like Jaden Ivey still on the board and other pieces on the board that might. Benedict Mathurin is another one. Like, there are pieces out there that he could have gone in a different direction, ended up going with Keegan Murray, and in my opinion, he's been proven right already to this point. In addition to that, signs Malik Monk, who's become a key, crucial sixth man for the Sacramento Kings team. We could go back to the trade deadline last year in addition to the Domantas Sabonis blockbuster, and I've talked about this many times before, turning Marvin Bagley into Trey Lyles, who's been excellent for the Sacramento Kings, Dante DiVincenzo, who didn't ultimately work out. But like you just go through the list of the moves that Monte McNair has made over his tenure as a general manager, and it's just check mark, gold star, home run, solid double, single, triple. Like, he is just consistently making the right smart moves, and he has stuck to his plan from day one when he came in the building, his introductory press conference, which was over Zoom, I believe, and told us like he was going to stay patient. He wanted this team to have flexibility, and he wanted them to be in a position to make a big move if a star became available. Well, look what he did with Domantas Sabonis. Monte McNair has stuck to his guns and stuck to his word and made smart moves, even at the cost of patience. And what I mean by that is a lot of Sacramento Kings fans, especially a couple seasons ago, we were almost banging on Monty's office door saying, make a move, do something. This team is in absolute shambles. And he has made the right, appropriate moves, waited and given the appropriate time to make sure these moves were in the best interest of the Sacramento Kings and we're not also handicapping the Kings by giving up too much or not getting enough back. Monty has put together, in my opinion, a masterclass of general managing here in Sacramento. And of course, the bar was not very high for Monty, like based off of, like, no disrespect, love Vlade Divac, absolute Kings legend. Vlade did not set the bar high at all. Pete D'Alessandro before him set the bar even freaking lower. So it's been rough for the Sacramento Kings to find and put together a competent front office since Jeff Petrie was left or was fired. And it's been a long time coming to have someone who can come in and can do this job well, who surrounds himself with people who also know how to do their jobs well. And also, it has to be said, a ton of credit to Kings ownership, Vivek Ranadive, for empowering Monte McNair right away, for allowing the basketball decision makers to make basketball decisions. And you can see what is happening. Smart general managers, smart front offices, given the keys and given control. Of course, they are going to be judged based off of their results, and all results show that Monte McNair is more than worthy of this contract extension that he has gotten. So I give credit to Vivek Ranadive for, number one, getting out of the way, which has been a problem of his and Kings ownership in the past, and number two, making the right move today and securing Monte McNair, securing Wes Wilcox, and keeping this train rolling. Because even if the Sacramento Kings are the third seed in the Western Conference right now, they're continuing to trend upward, and the expectation is over the next handful of seasons that it's going to continue that way. Like, I personally think I shouldn't say this, but this is how I feel, and it might end up making me look stupid, but this is how I feel, so I'm just going to say it. I think it's a foregone conclusion that Domantas Sabonis is going to sign or is going to re-sign with the Kings and stick around. Now, I don't think he's going to sign a contract extension. He can make a lot more money if he goes into free agency and then renegotiates a contract with the Sacramento Kings. Now, of course, there's an element of risk to that, but if the Kings continue on the path that they're on right now, I mean, one, Domantas Sabonis would be a fool not to resign for the Sacramento Kings, and the Kings would be fools not to give Monty, or to back up the truck and give Domantas Sabonis basically everything that he wants and everything that he's asking for. I mean, I think it's just a tremendously bright future for the Sacramento Kings, even with the present being as fun and exciting as it is right now. I thought Brandon Nunez on Twitter put it well. I think there should be a beam lit tonight for Monte McNair signing a contract extension and for Wes Wilcox to be signing a contract extension. I think this is a tremendous, terrific, incredible win for the city of Sacramento, for the Kings organization, and then hopefully for Monty and his family and Wes and his family, who have been now ingrained into kind of Sacramento's culture, and they too recognize how great of a basketball community and how great of a fan base this Kings fan base is. So I do want to say I think it took way longer than it had to. I don't know why it took to this point to make this decision official. Maybe negotiations have been going on for a long period of time and it was about money or it was about years, or I have no idea. We're not privy to the length of this contract. We're not privy to these conversations, and hopefully we'll get an opportunity in a press conference here in the near future to talk to Monty and ask him a couple of questions. But like, this felt like it was inevitable. It felt like writing on the wall, especially with how well the Sacramento Kings have been doing. But I honestly thought this should have happened this past offseason, even with the Sacramento Kings getting off to that 0-4 start. Maybe it was Monty's decision to wait a little bit. Maybe it was the Kings' decision to wait a little bit and see the results before locking Monte McNair down. I have no idea why it took this long. Regardless, we still got to the result needed and result wanted. Monty is still going to be the general manager of the Sacramento Kings for years to come, and I think that's just as big of a win for Sacramento as this upcoming playoff drought-ending series is going to be for this city, too. I cannot wait. I think the future is so tremendously bright here. Monty is an absolute A-plus of a hire for Kings general manager, for Kings owner Vivek Ranadive and that ownership group. They did a phenomenal job with that entire process, and they deserve just as much credit for Monty's success as Monty deserves credit for Mike Brown's success and the success of this roster. Everybody is on the same page, it seems like, and that is something that should not be as exciting as it is in Sacramento because it was so uncommon and has been so uncommon for so long. But finally, there's cohesiveness, there's consistency within this organization, top to bottom, and it's no surprise that the culture is changing and that results are following suit. It's been a revolving door of coaches, of players, and even front offices over the last 16 years over this playoff drought. To have consistency in your coaching staff, to have consistency in your front office, to have these guys returning. For De'Aaron Fox, who's in year 6, I believe, of his career, to come into the building and know that he's going to be seeing the same faces for the most part for a long period of time, or hopefully as long as he sticks around here in Sacramento. Like, I imagine that's a breath of fresh air for him. That's a breath of fresh air for me, and I'm sure that is a breath of fresh air for you as well. So now I want to hear from you. Let me know, how are you feeling about this Monte McNair news? Are you celebrating? Is it like about time thing, or are you like, okay, this was the right timing? Like, how are you feeling? I don't know anybody that could be upset or not happy with this move, but if you're not, I guess we can talk about it and you can try and explain to me why you're feeling that way. But regardless, this is a tremendous day for Sacramento, a tremendous day for the Kings, and now it's back to work. Monty signs the dotted line. That's great. There's maybe some champagne, some cheers glasses, some hands shaken, and then it's back to work for Monty, who has the trade deadline coming up here, and I think it's fantastic that they got this deal done before the trade deadline so Monty can go into the deadline with confidence, even though I don't expect him to make major fireworks in this deadline. That's just my opinion or my feel on the situation. But Monty can enjoy the remainder of the season, continue to work throughout the remainder of the season to put the Sacramento Kings in the best position they can this year. And then hopefully, now that he's gotten to this second contract and now that the Kings are getting to the position that they're in, then the work becomes not just get the Kings to the playoffs, but now keep them in the playoffs and get them to a position where they're potentially winning a championship. It's great to be able to say that and talk about that. I don't want to jump too far ahead, but now that Monty's gotten to this point with the Sacramento Kings, that's his job. Of course, the Kings have to make the playoffs first. Again, don't want to get too far ahead of myself. But I think Monty is past all of the precursor tests to show that he's capable of doing this job and capable of bringing this team out of the dark ages and out of the playoff drought. They're going to be out of the playoff drought come May. I firmly believe that. After that, it's how do you get the Kings to play all the way till the end of June. I'm looking forward to seeing Monte McNair try and figure out that problem and have the full control that he deserves and have full confidence of the organization in the moves that he makes, even if some of them don't end up working. And there are going to be some moves that he does that don't end up working. But I'm so thrilled. I'm so fired up today, and I hope you are too. Again, let me know how you're feeling at MattGeorgeSack on Twitter. Email me, mattgeorgesports@gmail.com, or leave your thoughts in the YouTube comment section down below. This special abbreviated episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are here. We're really excited about our new sports betting partner here for Locked On because of the #1 sportsbook in America. It's FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, that's even better. They have so many great features that make betting on sports fun and easy. New customers, if you join today and get started, you'll get $150 credit in free bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. So you bet $5, you get $150 of free bets for you to make money on FanDuel. Just sign up and just sign up at FanDuel.com/lockedon to take advantage of that deal. FanDuel has all of your favorite bets from the money line to point spreads to player props. Plus, you can even combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same game parlay. Now, of course, with the NFL playoffs and with FanDuel being the #1 sportsbook for the NFL, there's a lot of focus on football right now, but they have great betting for the Sacramento Kings, great betting for the NBA, period. So check that out, and it's all on one app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. So football fans, don't miss out. Place your first $5 bet to get $150 in free bets, win or lose, at FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So just a reminder, I will have the Kings and Wizards, Locked On Kings, Locked On Wizards podcast talking about a Kyle Kuzma trade and other potential trades and two teams as trade partners with the trade deadline getting closer and closer now that we know Monte McNair is going to be here to stay and make the decisions. That is going to be an even more fun podcast to break down and to listen to, I hope. So that is going to be dropping. It's already recorded. It's ready to go. It's going to be dropping at 6 a.m. tomorrow, which is Wednesday, and then Wednesday night after the Kings and Raptors game, we will have a post-game pod for that. So a lot of Locked On Kings content coming your way. Plus, I'm working on a great guest for Thursday's episode of Locked On Kings. Still planning on doing a live Friday edition of the Locked On Kings podcast. The first time ever doing Locked On Kings live. That is still the plan for Friday. And then, of course, I think the Kings play this weekend too. So a lot of Locked On Kings content is coming your way, and I'm so excited and fired up about it. This has been a ton of fun, and this is just a really enjoyable day for me as not just a fan of the Sacramento Kings, but a big fan of Monte McNair. So I hope you enjoyed this special abbreviated version of Locked On Kings. Make sure you stick around for my Kings and Wizards trade podcast dropping tomorrow morning. And if you're going to the Raptors game tomorrow night, maybe to celebrate hopefully another Kings win and to celebrate Monte McNair's contract extension, let me know. I would love to see you. Of course, we'll be at the Golden One Center for that game. So hit me up and we'll meet up and I'll say hi and thank you. But I always say thank you to all of you, audio listeners, video watchers on YouTube. You're all incredible. On YouTube, thank you so much for getting us over 5,000 subscribers. That's a tremendous milestone, and I look forward to that number continuing to go up. But thank you for your support there, and I can't wait to have you join me on the next episode of Locked On Kings. Until then, my name is Matt George. You've been listening to the Locked On Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.